For those of you who were not able to come to Blackline Supply's workshop on how to solder, I decided to make a quick video explaining this simple process. I use soldering a lot to connect battery cases and LED lamps together that can then be used to light up the insides of my architectural models. This is a model I built my junior year, and I put a switch on the side of the base so I can actually turn the lights on and off. It's simple, it's sleek, and it really brings your model to a whole nother level. Alright, let's get started. The first tool that I recommend you getting is a magnifying glass with clamp hands. These little clamp hands can be used to hold the wires together as you solder. And if you don't have one of these, you can either ask a friend to hold it while you work on it, or you can tape the wires in place. For beginners, I really recommend you using this. It will keep your hands from the heat source and really prevent you getting burned. Other tools that you'll need might be scissors, pliers, and some sort of knife. You'll also need your soldering iron. This is a really basic one. And your solder. This comes on a big roll, but this is just a small piece of what it looks like. Solder basically is a really soft metal that melts faster than the wire, and as it cools, it connects the two pieces of wire that you are trying to connect. Okay, step number one is to trim your leads. Using your knife, you want to take off about 1/4 inch of the casing. So you can see here on the red positive lead, I've taken off about 1/4 inch, and on the negative, I've done the same. That's for the battery case. And you want to do the same on your LED lamp. This LED lamp that I sell in my store already has the leads on it, so that's really nice. You can just buy them without the wires. Either way, you definitely want to, or you will need to strip the end of it off. I just use a knife for it. There are other tools out there called wire strippers that you can use as well. Okay, after you have your wires stripped, you'll want to cut a little bit of your heat shrink tube or electrical tape. You can also use electrical tape at the very end, but heat shrink tube is just a really nice method. And just trim off enough to cover the bare parts. Now I'll explain this a little bit more later on, but for right now, all you need to do is slip it over the wire and push it out of the way because we're not going to be using it for a while. So just let it go all the way back. Alright, now that we have our heat shrink tube on there, we're going to twist the wires together. And for a lot of different cases, especially small architectural models or study models, you don't need to solder. You can just sort of twist them together and tape that. That would be fine. That would be a fine stopping point. But for the cases where space matters inside of your model base, you want to solder. This is the process you should go through. All right. So we have this all trimmed up, nice and tight. We're gonna have our hands hold it for us now. And as I've been doing all this, I've been getting my soldering iron nice and hot. It takes about 5 to 10 minutes for your soldering iron to get hot. So you don't want to touch anywhere up this way. Beyond the black handle is going to be hot to touch. There we go. Okay. So I have my soldering iron in my right hand, and I have my piece of solder in the left hand. And this piece is getting pretty small, so I'm going to hold it with my pliers. And I'm just gonna, there's some solder actually on this iron that's already left there. All you have to do is hold the iron on the wire, and then when the wire is hot enough, you can start to put your solder there. And your pieces are now connected. Now, if I take the wires off of this little apparatus, you can see as I pull on this that the wires are now melted together. And the last step is to push this heat shrink tube back over the bare wire that you have soldered together. And then just use a lighter. Just for 2 seconds underneath there. Nice. And all that did was make the tube shrink up around it. So now it's like you have a whole brand new wire there with casing and everything. Now I'm going to do the same for the negative. First we cut a little piece of our heat shrink tube. Slide it over. Put it out of the way. We don't need it right now, so we'll get it all the way out of there. Now we're going to twist our wires together. Actually, I have quite a bit of wire exposed here, so I'm going to cut some of this off. Okay, again we twist this all nice. And you can trim off any other extras that you have there. And this is already holding itself up great in tension, so you don't need the clips for this one. Or I'll just show you how you do it without the clips. If you don't have one of these tools, you can just sort of bend the wires once they're twisted together to fit up there. And again, we just get the soldering iron underneath there. It's a little bit harder to do it this way because the hands are not holding them perfectly in place, so the wire moves around more. But just let it sit there for about 10 or 15 seconds. And now you can see, and right here it's actually still hot because when you put a hot source up here, the wire conducts the heat, so it's still hot even back here. So just wait for it to cool a little bit. But as I tug on it, you can see that they've been melted together. Then again, we slide our heat shrink tube over the top of it. There we go. And then just use our lighter. There you go. It's like you didn't even splice it. It's perfect, perfect casing. Won't come apart any easier than the rest of the wire would. And now you can just flip the switch, and there's your light. Hope that was helpful.